Welcome back to CIA Declassified. The signal dies not with a bang, but with a flat line on a monitor thousands of miles away. In the late 1970s, at the height of the technical revolution in espionage, the jagged peaks of the Hindu Kush have just swallowed a piece of American hardware that contains the keys to the kingdom. You are sitting in a vault in Langley, Virginia, staring at a map where a red light has just turned amber. This isn't just a crash, it's a compromise. The asset, a high-altitude surveillance sensor package, is sitting in a snowbank, waiting for the first person with a screwdriver to find it. You aren't a soldier, and you aren't a traditional spy. You are a retrieval specialist. The air in the briefing room is heavy with the scent of floor wax and urgency. You are shown a grainy satellite photo of the crash site. You have exactly 6 hours before Soviet mountain patrol reaches those coordinates. This is the KUNUT protocol in action. You aren't being sent to win a battle. You are being sent to erase a mistake. The atmosphere is one of clinical desperation where the value of the machinery far outweighs the lives of the men sent to fetch it. You feel the sudden stomach-dropping lurch of a low-level flight as your unmarked transport hugs the terrain to avoid radar. The cabin is dark, lit only by the faint glow of your team's specialized gear, thermal imagers, and thermite charges. You are checking the seals on your clean suit, knowing that if you can't carry the asset out, you have to melt it into an unrecognizable puddle of slag. You are a ghost retriever, moving through a landscape where every shadow is an enemy and every second is a countdown to a technological catastrophe. As you fast rope into the biting cold of the landing zone, the wind whipping ice crystals against your goggles, you realize the sheer audacity of the mission. You are participating in a global game of finders keepers where the stakes are nuclear secrets and cryptographic codes. You find the wreckage, a twisted skeleton of titanium and silicone, and your heart hammers against your ribs as you hear the distant throb of an approaching helicopter. And it isn't one of yours. You have to work fast, your frozen fingers fumbling with the security bolts, participating in a race where second place means a decade of lost technological advantage. You are the one who makes the call, recover or sanitize. You look at the heavy sensor array and realize you can't move it in time. You set the thermite, the blinding white heat illuminating the mountainside as you scramble back to your extraction point. You are the architect of a disappearance. You go home to a world that will never know that $1 billion secret just turned into smoke, living with the knowledge that you are the final line of defense between American innovation and foreign exploitation. Why KUNUT? In the labyrinth of the CIA's cryptonym system, the KU diagraph was historically assigned to the agency's Office of Communications or technical divisions dealing with infrastructure and hardware security. The suffix NUT was a functional descriptor chosen for its brevity and distinctiveness in radio transmissions. It signified a tough nut to crack, a mission involving the extraction of a hardened technical asset from difficult or denied environment. KUNUT was the administrative grab bag for any operation where the objective was a thing rather than a person. To understand how the CIA tracks its lost toys across the globe, we have to look at the receipts of the KUNUT protocol. KUNUT operations were managed by the CIA's Office of Technical Services. The protocol was famously activated to recover pieces of the A-12 Oxcart spy plane. Teams utilized thermite grenades that burn at 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit to instantly melt circuit boards. KUNUT coordinated with USNS Glomar Explorer during Project Azorian. The program utilized underwater recovery vehicles, URVs, to pull sensors from the ocean floor. It established a rapid response team based in Okinawa, Japan, for Pacific recoveries. KUNUT teams were trained in technical forensics to determine if an asset had been tampered with before recovery. The program utilized deniable shipping, front companies, to move recovered hardware back to the U.S. KUNUT recovered a lost Corona satellite film canister from the Pacific. The teams utilized encrypted distress beacons that only broadcasted on specific low probability of intercept frequencies. KUNUT managed the sanitization of the U-2 wreckage and various global crash sites. The The program utilized liquid nitrogen to freeze and shatter sensitive components that couldn't be burned. KUNUT coordinated with the Special Activities Division for armed protection during recoveries. The program recovered high-tech buoys used to track Soviet submarines. It utilized microtransponders hidden within the casing of CIA equipment to track them if stolen. KUNUT teams were required to pass high-stress technical exams while under physical duress. The program recovered a lost nuclear-powered sensor from the Himalayas in Project Bluegill. It utilized acoustic pinger locators to find assets lost in deep-sea environments. KUNUT maintained a museum of compromise containing foreign tech they recovered and studied. The program used vacuum-sealed bags to prevent the degradation of technical components during transport. KUNUT recovered a sophisticated Soviet taper encryption device from a defecting officer's luggage. The protocol includes remote self-destruct commands that can be sent via satellite to certain assets. KUNUT teams were the first to utilize portable X-ray machines to scan containers for booby traps. The project recovered fragments of a downed MiG-25 for reverse engineering. KUNUT integrated into the Directorate of Science and Technology in the 1960s. It utilized chemical etching agents to erase serial numbers and identifying marks from recovered tech. KUNUT recovered a lost seismic intrusion detector from the Ho Chi Minh Trail. The program utilized heavy lift helicopters like the CH-54 CH-54 Tarhi, for asset extraction. KUNUT teams used lead-lined containers to transport hardware with high radiation signatures. The program recovered a lost CIA safe from an embassy during a revolution. It used magnetic grapples to snag metallic assets from the air using a skyhook system. KUNUT conducted sanitization sweeps of former CIA black sites to ensure no tech remained. The program used non-magnetic tools to avoid triggering tamper sensors on high-end electronics. It recovered a lost D-21 supersonic drone from the Chinese desert. KUNUT teams were often disguised as archaeological surveyors or mining engineers. KUNUT operators once used a modified civilian yacht to recover a Soviet seafloor cable tap. The program utilized flesh-colored concealments for small technical devices hidden on agents. KUNUT developed self-dissolving drones that turn into a puddle of polymer if they lose power. It used biological mimicry, disguising sensors as rocks, tree branches, and even animal carcasses. KUNUT recovered a high-altitude balloon payload from a tree canopy in the Amazon using trained climbers. The program utilized magnetic pulse generators to wipe magnetic storage drives from outside a building. KUNUT teams were dispatched to recover wreckage from the Challenger disaster to protect classified payloads. It used sub-zero storage to preserve the volatile memory of captured enemy computers. KUNUT recovered a lost CIA pneumatic tube canister from a sewer system in East Berlin. The program utilized hypnotic regression to help agents remember the exact location they dropped a technical asset under fire. KUNUT stole back a CIA surveillance van that had been impounded by foreign police. It used acid-filled battery compartments that would melt the internal circuitry if the device was pried open. KUNUT teams utilized parachute snatch techniques to recover film canisters in mid-air. The program recovered a lost nuclear satellite from the Canadian wilderness in Operation Morning Light. It utilized seismic sensors to detect the footsteps of unauthorized personnel approaching a crash site. KUNUT recovered a briefcase containing one-time pads from a sunken plane in the Caribbean. The program used fake debris to distract adversarial recovery teams while the real asset was extracted. KUNUT teams utilized inertial navigation to find assets in caves where GPS and radio were useless. It utilized thermal camouflage to hide recovery teams from Soviet satellite surveillance. The program once recovered a lost spy cat, Acoustic Kitty, I have a full episode on that, following its unfortunate encounter with a taxi. Quote from a Declassified technical security directive: "If we can't have it, nobody can. That is the first and final rule of KUNUT." Quote from a former deputy director of science and technology, but it doesn't say who, which one. A lost asset is a ticking time bomb of intelligence. Every hour it sits in the field, our national security erodes. Quote from a declassified memo on asset retrieval. The KUNUT protocol ensures that the ghost remains a ghost even when the machinery fails. Quote that is attributed to a KUNUT recovery specialist whose name isn't provided. We are not looking for bodies, we are looking for binary. We are looking for the silicon souls of our secrets. Quote from a declassified Office of Technical Service briefing. The technical race is won by the side that can recover from its failures the fastest. Quote from a declassified internal CIA operations memo. In the recovery of sensitive tech, speed is the only camouflage that works. And a quote from a declassified science and technology training manual. When the hardware fails, the human becomes the backup system. End quote. The KUNUT archives contain a volume titled The Antarctic Anomaly Retrieval, which is a masterpiece of official silence. Approximately 450 pages are completely redacted. The redactions are enforced under Exemption B1 for classified defense information and Exemption B7 subsection E, which protects investigative techniques. Based on the surrounding unredacted logistics, I suspect these pages detail a deep crust recovery mission for a sophisticated Soviet weapon system, possibly a nuclear-powered Slava-class submersible drone that was lost beneath the ice shelf. However, the sheer density of the biological containment headers suggests something far more alarming. The redactions likely hide the deployment of proprietary deep ice boring thermal drills designed to penetrate 2 miles of ice in under 48 hours. Most tellingly, the redacted sections include multiple medical quarantine subfiles, suggesting that the technical asset wasn't the only thing found in the hole. Maybe an alien or something? I don't know. I've seen John Carpenter's The Thing. It's one of my favorite movies. The teams may have inadvertently unearthed a prehistoric pathogen or a biological agent if it wasn't an alien. So volatile it required the total and permanent sealing of the extraction site. And I'm not the only one with theories. When things vanish and then reappear, the imagination fills the gaps. For instance, there's the lost nuke theory. It's a persistent speculation that a KUNUT team lost a plutonium-powered sensor in the mountain of Nanda Devi in India, and the subsequent retrieval was a cover for a failed attempt to recover a leaking nuclear core that poisoned the local water supply. There's the Roswell retrieval link. Some theorists believe KUNUT was actually formed to recover downed UFOs and that its terrestrial missions are just a way to keep the teams trained and the funding hidden. Then there's the time slip recovery theory. It's a fringe one that suggests that a KUNUT mission in the 1980s recovered a piece of technology that was too advanced for its era, implying either time travel or a level of secret human development that would make our current tech look like stone tools. And then there's the moon rock theft. Speculation exists that KUNUT was used to recover lunar samples that had been stolen by a private collector using the cover of a standard technical asset retrieval to avoid admitting the government had lost control of national treasures. Was KUNUT a success? Tactically, it was a surgical necessity. The ability to pinpoint a lost device and extract it from a hostile environment is a capability few nations possess. KUNUT proved that the CIA could unring the bell of technological compromise. It remains the ultimate safety net for the intelligence community, a guarantee that a mechanical failure doesn't have to lead to a strategic disaster. By perfecting the art of rapid sanitization, the agency ensured that even in defeat, the enemy gained nothing. The tactical proficiency of the KUNUT teams allowed for a much higher risk tolerance in the deployment of experimental tech, knowing that if it fell, the retrievers would be on the ground before the smoke cleared. The success of KUNUT resided in its creation of a shadow logistics chain. They didn't just recover tech, they learned how to move it through customs, across borders, and through war zones without a single official paper trail. This mastery of invisible transport allowed the U.S. to maintain a global presence that was physically undeniable but legally non-existent. The tactical flexibility shown in missions like the recovery of the Glomar assets demonstrated that with enough engineering and secrecy, the ocean floor was no longer a safe place to hide a secret. Strategically, It was a high-risk stalemate. While KUNUT recovered many assets, the mere existence of the program forced adversaries to develop their own rapid recovery units, leading to literal shootouts over wreckage in remote corners of the world. The program ensured that the U.S. maintained its technological edge by preventing reverse engineering, even if it meant destroying its own billion-dollar investments. The strategy of deniable recovery allowed the U.S. to avoid international incidents while still protecting its most sensitive secrets. The strategic cost of KUNUT was a permanent state of technological paranoia. Every piece of hardware sent into the field had to be designed with a kill switch, often compromising its performance or increasing its weight. The strategic focus on retrieval meant that billions were spent on the aftermath of failure rather than the prevention of it. This created a culture where the destruction of evidence was prioritized over the understanding of why the failure occurred, potentially stalling long-term technical growth in favor of short-term security. KUNUT was a brilliant defense that never quite figured out how to become an offense. As far as technological and operational breakthroughs go, KUNUT led to quite a few, such as high-energy thermite destruction, which was perfected for KUNUT sanitization to ensure that even a single microscopic trace of a processor could be vaporized in seconds. In the intelligence community, this allows for the instant sanitization of field offices during an embassy overrun, protecting years of agent identities. For humanity at large, this high-temperature material science has revolutionized emergency aircraft evacuation systems, where thermite-based cutting charges allow for the near-instantaneous opening of emergency exits or the release of heavy landing gear when mechanical systems fail. It is the difference between a trapped crew and a successful escape in high-consequence maritime and aerospace accidents. Remote asset geofencing was a KUNUT innovation designed to track lost hardware even when it was turned off or buried under debris. For the military, this has evolved into smart munitions tracking, ensuring that unexploded ordnance can be located and safely neutralized after a conflict. For the average person, this breakthrough is the direct ancestor of the Find My technology on your smartphone and the global GPS tracking of shipping containers. It has transformed the global economy by creating supply chain visibility, allowing corporations to track critical medicine or parts across the planet with meter-level accuracy, virtually eliminating the concept of lost in transit. Deep-sea salvage robotics were pioneered by the KUNUT team and the Glomar project to pull sensitive sensors from the crushing depths of the ocean floor. In the intelligence world, this allows for the tap and retrieval of undersea communication cables, providing a deep look capability into global data flows. For humanity, this technology is now the backbone of subsea cable repair and deep water energy exploration. These autonomous and remotely operated vehicles are the only reason our global internet remains functional after seismic events, allowing robots to perform delicate repairs in environments that would crush a human being instantly. And tamper-evident enclosure design, which was developed to tell KUNUT teams at a glance if an asset had been compromised or opened by an adversary. In the military, this ensures that nuclear and chemical triggers remain secure and untampered with during transport. For the public, this breakthrough is found in every pharmaceutical packaging and secure voting machine in use today. It is the foundation of consumer trust, providing a visual and chemical guarantee that the medicine you take or the vote you cast has not been altered by an outside force, creating a chain of custody that is physically verifiable. We live in a world where the things we build are often more valuable than the people who use them. KUNUT was the clinical realization of that fact, a protocol designed to protect the silicon and steel at any cost. It was a war of finders keepers played for the highest possible stakes, where a single lost circuit board could shift the balance of power. The ghost retrievers were the janitors of the Cold War, cleaning up the mess left behind by a technological reach that often exceeded its grasp. The reality of KUNUT is that it turned the entire planet into a potential crime scene where every crash and every failure was a race against time. It proved that for the state, a secret is only a secret as long as you can physically touch it. This project established the precedent that the American technological edge is something that must be fought for, recovered, and sometimes burned to the ground to keep it pure. Furthermore, KUNUT redefined the relationship between man and machine. It taught the agency that the hardware is the mission and the human is the delivery vehicle. By prioritizing the retrieval of the object over the rescue of the operator, the KUNUT protocol signaled a shift into a post-human intelligence era, one where data is the only currency that matters. This cold mechanical focus ensures that even as our tools become more autonomous, the need for a human ghost to go in and fetch them will remain the final brutal necessity of the shadows. If it's worth building, it's worth burning. Never trust a signal that stops moving. The most important part of a secret is the box you put it in. And remember, finders are rarely keepers in the world of high-stakes retrieval. Thanks for listening, and join us next time as we examine SINCARP, the CIA's front organization that fueled the Guatemalan liberation movement. We'll look at the corporate coup, the manufacture of a revolution, and the brutal legacy of the Banana Republic that still haunts Central America today. Join us next time for the Plywood Revolution. In the meantime, I'll see you in the archives.